Hey guys, it's Maymay, and you have been asking for this project we're doing today for absolutely years. I have avoided it because it can be very overwhelming, and I needed to make it simple, and I think that I have, but we'll see. Okay, so we're going to be making an advent calendar book that has little boxes that you can open and get the little treats out. So that'll be our 2020 advent. I'm going to use this Winterland paper. Are you kidding me? It's stunning. There's no telling what all I'll use out of here. So that's the paper I'll be using. We need to start with boxes. Okay, here's one of the reasons I waited. I did not want to make boxes with lids because I know my children will lose lids. Like if you're making this for kids, you know, the lid will come off, it might get put back, it might get crushed, what have you. I wanted everything to be one piece. So the box we're going to use is an old-fashioned pizza box. You know the little pizza boxes that you can make like this? These are the ones we're going to use. So let's make those. I have made a template here, okay, for your scoring because I'm going to be scoring on black today, and I know that's going to be dark. So I'll move this over here to the side so you can see that while I work. And here's where you will score, okay? My piece is 4 by 7. Also, do not stress. We're going to have a complete blog post with all of the measurements, all of the stuff I'm using, all in the description. All right, 4 by 7 piece of cardstock. I'm going to score it at 1 inch. I'm going to score it at 3 inches. Okay, then I'm going to turn it to my 7-inch side. Let's turn this one too. I'm going to score it at 1, at 3, at 4, and at 6. Now, in my opinion, this is the most time-consuming part, making 24 little boxes. But the beauty of it is we're going to make 24 of these and not have to make also 24 lids, just the boxes. You can hear my laziness coming out. I don't want to make 24 bottoms and tops. So here we go. Okay, now for your cutting, it does sort of matter, and let me tell you why. This side and this side are going to be the sides of the top of the box, so we want them to stay nice and square. So here's what I mean. On this score mark right here, I want you to cut to the right-hand side of this score mark, right to the edge of it. The reason for that is the side. Let me show you what we're cutting. That is this edge, and see how clean that is? We want that to be nice and clean and straight, all right? But this piece is the tab that's going to glue to it, so I'm going to cut that at an angle. So I'm going to nip that away, and I did not do a very straight job on that cut that I'm sitting here preaching to cut straight. Let's do it again. All right, that's better. So this is my tab on this side. Okay, now I want to do the same thing here. So I can flip it over and use my score mark like this, cut straight up the side of my score mark, like so, and then cut an angle in. And that is going to be the 2 tabs that make the top of my box. Now when I get here, I'm going to do something that might seem a little strange, but for me it worked really well. Here, I'm going to cut my score mark away. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to make a slice on each side of my score mark and get that out of here. I don't know why, but it kind of made my boxes go a little wonky, that little piece. So I'm just going to get that guy out of here, just like that. Okay, so I've cut that little score mark. I know it's crazy, but it does something. All right, and now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to cut this little score mark away. You know, our score marks are pretty thick, especially if you use the same tool I use, if you use the silicone or the big ball embossing tool. They get kind of thick, and so sometimes you just need to get those out of the way. So that's what we've done there. We have gotten those 2 score marks gone. Now here, what we want to remember is that this section, the longer section, is the sides of our box. So what we want to do here is we want to cut to the inside right-hand side of this score mark, okay, and make a tab. So our tab is to the top. Don't worry, I'm going to take a photo of this and put it on my blog post for you guys to see it, so that you can reference it. Because even when Shannon and I were making 24 of these, we kept having to reference. So you see what I've got? The side of my box, tab, tab. I'm going to flip it over. Side of the box, and then tab, tab. These tabs, by the way, are just an angle cut. It doesn't really matter, but you will find that they are very beneficial in a little bit. All right, so there it is. Let me put it on a piece of white so you can see it. All right, so let's look at it. So the first 2 pieces are tabs. These are sides of box. These we cut the score marks out, and then tabs and sides of box. Okay, so let's assemble this guy. You're going to need 24 of them. I want to talk to you about this as well. When you're folding with that thick score mark, what I want you to do is fold the whole score mark in, okay? In other words, don't fold on the outside of the score. Fold all the way to the box and pull that score mark in. Let's get rid of it. You can crease this with your bone folder and get that nice and snug, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to bring that score mark all the way in and crease. Same here. All the way and crease. And here. All right, and then I want to do my side pieces. And on the side pieces, here's what's real important. Bring your score mark all the way in, but also line the edge up here, okay? Make sure that's nice and smooth on the edges. So let me do it again. Don't do that where it doesn't line up. See how it's not lining up? Bring that piece to the edge and line that together. That's what you want to do. All right, let's do this side as well. Bring it over. Bring my whole score mark in. I got to line that up a little better. Same thing here. Look, this is an all-day project, okay? This is take a Saturday, take a weekday. You're working from home. You got all your work done. You can sit down and craft or something. This is not a 15, 20-minute project. Making these boxes takes a minute. Okay, so there we go. There's our box. Let's assemble. So the way you want to assemble is the top portion here. These two flaps get glue like so. And then this flap goes to this side, and you want to use that angle that we cut out to give you the space to line this up even. What that means is when we cut out that angle inside, I'll open this up so you can see it. When we cut out that little angle piece, it allows us to wiggle this piece into place, and that's what you want to do. All right, so let's glue this piece down. See this little space we've taken out? It just gives us some work room. So some more glue. And just line that up. I will tell you that in my opinion, the more precision you are on these boxes, the better. Now we're going to take these flaps and fold them in. So anywhere there's a tab with the little angle portion, that's what goes in. Okay. Close that little guy together. He lined up really well. Did something right there. I love when I do something right in some spots. All right, and then right here. Line him up. There we go. All right, and now up here, these two tabs go in. So I'm just going to apply glue to both of those. And this will make the little fold down portion of our box. Okay. So that is the assembly of the box. Make sure you get these edges glued down well. Those feel like they did okay. Then go ahead quickly and close your box, and you just kind of train it. Just kind of get it to work with itself and get it to line up good. This is how the box will close. That way we don't have to have another a lid to keep up with, right? Now, something I did that you don't have to do, I took a little 1/2-inch circle punch and did this. The reason you don't have to do it is because the way this box is going to open, you're going to be using your thumb more here than down here. I just did that out of habit. But when you're opening your little Advent box, this is going to be glued down. So your thumb is going to lift from the top more than here. So you don't really have to do it, but if you want to, you can. All right, if you need to go back and watch the assembly of that box a couple times, I totally understand. But now you need 24. Now let me talk to you about this piece, okay? This is one of the reasons I put this guy off, because I'm very picky about laying these boxes out. And if you remember last year's Advent calendar, I kind of did this number to make it easier for me. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock and score it in these measurements. They will not be for folding. They will just be for reference, okay? So where you can see them on my template here, which I'll have a photo of on the blog, by the way, you won't see them when I'm placing the boxes, but I will see them so I can place my boxes, if that makes sense. So the boxes will live like this. Now, the reason my measurements in particular are important is because the way I did my boxes, I need to have thumb space to put my thumb in and open them. So that's why we have a 1/2 inch gap between them, okay? All that'll make sense in a few minutes. But for now, what you need is an 8 by 10.5 piece of cardstock to make these score marks. So you actually need 2 pieces because your book opens like this. So you need a piece on one side for 12 boxes and a piece on the other side for 12 boxes. And again, I will have that template on the blog for you, but here's where we're going to score, okay? With this in your scoreboard at the 8-inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And remember, these are just reference marks, okay? You're going to score at 2.5, 3, 5, 5.5, 7.5. So that's your first set of scores. We're going to turn it to the 10.5 inch side, and you are going to score at 1/2, 2.5, 3, 5, 5.5, 7.5, 8, and 10. So this is just for reference marks, okay? And you'll notice I used a solid piece of paper. I have plans for decorating in between here, but I thought if I did it the way that's in my mind, I wouldn't have to use a whole piece of cardstock for this, and I could see my reference marks easier, okay? So stick with me on that. It'll make sense in a little bit. All right, let's score my second piece, same way as the first. This paper smells divine. Okay, here's my plan. So I really like this cable knit, and I have a bunch of these. I mean, not a bunch. I have a couple of these in this pack because I also really like the front, and I probably want to use some of that, but I have another piece to do that with, so I'm not going to stress. I want between my boxes to look like cable knit sweater. I just think that'll be cute, but I do not want to use all of my paper. In other words, I didn't want to cut this whole piece and use it as my background and then have to cut my other piece. I'm saving paper here. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need 5 strips that are 1/2 inch by 8 inches, because that's how wide my paper is. And then I'm going to need 4 strips that are 10.5 by 1/2 inch. Does that make sense? We're going to just strip this and use one piece of cardstock to do it. I think that's the best option for me because I don't want to use my whole sheet. So let me get my trimmer. The first thing I'm going to do is cut the branding strip off and get that out of my way. Now, still using a method to my madness, here's what I'm going to do. I want my strips to go in 2 different directions, all right? This cable knit, I want this part to go across, but what comes down, I want to go down, okay? So here's what I need to do. Because these are 1/2 inch pieces, I need 2 inches for this page, and I need 2 inches for this page. So I'm going to cut a 4 inch by 10.5 inch piece to do one part. This may be overkill. If you're not trying to save paper, then just use a whole regular pattern piece of paper and make this happen. But I just want to see if I can do this. All right, and then for the part that goes across the top, I'm going to need 2.5 inches. So that means I need 5 inches by 8 inches for the top. So I'm going to cut this down to 5. And this to 8. Oh, look, it's perfect. Yes. Perfect. I was hoping so. Okay, so now what we need to do, remembering my orientation, because I'm real bad about this, I want to cut these strips like this. So that means I want to turn them so they'll go that way, and I want to cut them at 1/2 inch. Very overkill, I think. I don't know. I'm going to like it, I think. I'm going to want it to look this way. So, and again, I'm going to need 10 of these, which this should be just enough to make that happen. So I don't know where I got my measurement off just then, but somewhere I did. I had to cut another 1/2 inch strip. No big deal. I already had this piece, you know, that I could cut it from. And look, I even have some left. But somehow I had to do that. I may have made a correction on the screen if I figure out my measurement. But just so you know, you need 10 pieces that are 1/2 inch. Okay. For this one, we need 8 1/2 inch pieces. So let's cut these down. Okay, now it is time to glue these guys down. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run glue on these sections that are not where the boxes go. The boxes go in these little holes, okay? So I'm going to glue this down. If you hear noise in the background, it's Vinny. He's eating his breakfast in here. You can say hello.
Hello.
Lately,
Sorry, I was trying to be so quiet.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it in case they're like, is there a mouse in the room? Yes, it's Vinny Mouse. So, gluing these guys down everywhere that my lines cross over. Maybe I should show you this on the template so you can see where I'm gluing. 1 second. Let me glue this one down before my glue dries, and I'll show you. Whoops, I slid it. Okay, so using the template to show you, these guys are being glued here. So this, remember, this is just this is just for us to know where to put our boxes. So that's how we're going to have pretty background paper without using a whole piece. I'm being real skimpy then. Instead of using a whole piece of cardstock, I cut all these strips because I don't want to waste that whole second sheet of Mente.
So you're being frugal.
Frugal, skimpy.
Cheap.
I want to use that other piece of Mente, but I wanted to use this one too, so that's how we're going to do it. All right, I better turn this way so I get these pretty straight. May even use my cutting mat to really help me here. There we go. All right, I'm just going to continue this, covering all of these sections with this cardstock. All right, so I got my side pieces down. Now I'm going to put my long pieces down. And remember, well, here's something that you're going to be like, well, these are crossing over those pieces and it's going to add some dimension. Not going to be a problem because the way we're putting this book together, there'll be plenty of space between. So this little bit of dimension we're adding by stacking these pages up on each other is not going to make a single bit of difference. It's actually just going to make our whole project a little sturdier. So one there, and then in between here. So that's what I'm looking for. Isn't that going to be awesome? Won't that be a perfect place for us to put all our little boxes? I just have 2 laying over here, but you can see how easy that'll make placement, and the back will look like I used a whole piece of cardstock, but I got to save one. There we go. The way to use paper without using all your paper. I think that looks cool. Plus, it tells me exactly where to put my boxes. However, I noticed that I got off right here. So I would suggest if you're going to do this, you might want to pencil in your score marks so you can really see them. Because I don't know, my over 40 eyes, almost over 50 eyes, I should say, kind of went wonky. So there we go. This is still going to work. Now then, let's talk chipboard. So you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that are 8 1/4 by 10 3/4. Here's why. This is going to mount here like this, and I want a little bit of the edge to show around it, almost like card making. So that's the reason you'll need this size. Now we're going to need 2 of them, and I want to show you a new tip I've got for cutting chipboard. Okay, so I've cut one piece already. Let's cut another. By the way, we do carry this chipboard. We have it in stock as of the time of this video, or time I'm making this. So check it out and see. This is really good chipboard. It comes in 3 colors. Does not matter what color you use because you're going to cover it up completely. All right, so 8 1/4. So let me show you this. So this is my chipboard trimmer. Now, what does that mean? If you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Anytime I change a blade out from my good trimmer, I bring it and put it into this trimmer. So it's worn out for paper, but it's not worn out for chipboard. So what I do is I put it into this trimmer. So I have 2 of these, basically. And then I'm going to cut this at 8 1/4 one time through. Then I'm going to flip this over and cut it at 8 1/4 again. So that cuts me almost all the way through my chipboard. But I have noticed as of late, and I think it's because my blade is broken, the tip of it might be just slightly broken, that this is not cutting all the way through. But I want to show you this. This is so cool. If you'll take your craft knife and leave this in your trimmer, you can then place your blade right into that cut and run down it a couple times. Because remember, more passes, less pressure. And not only will it cut through it for you the rest of the way, it'll be nice and clean. And because you're doing this in your cutter, your blade goes into the cut line and you get it cut completely. Did you see that just separate? And it's a beautiful cut when you do that. Okay, so let me go down here and finish this top portion, and I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to close this down so I can get to it. And just more passes, less pressure right up here. And there we go. And I love how that works. All right, so there is my 8 1/4. Now 10 3/4. Before I did the X-Acto or the craft knife method that I just showed you, I used to just take this out and just wiggle it back and forth, and that was fine, but it left me a furry edge that I would trim off with scissors, and this way I don't get the furry edge, and I like the way it looks. Perfect. So these are the two pieces that make the book. Now we need the spine piece. So here's our pieces. Now, these guys are big, okay? They are 10 3/4 long, and they are 19 inches wide when I have them laid out. So here's what that means for me. I want an inch on either side to wrap over. That's probably more than I need, but I want it because of the book opening and closing. I want a lot of room here, okay? So I'm going to add an inch to either side, which means I need a 21-inch piece of cardstock to cover these pieces. Now, where I'll run into an issue is I won't have an inch on either side to flip over because my paper's 12 inches tall, okay? But I should have a little, almost an inch to flap over, and I should be fine. Okay, so what we need to do is need to make a 21-inch piece of cardstock. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm using this absolutely most gorgeous cardstock right here. Not this side, but this side. I want my book to be this pattern. So I'm going to cut my branding strips off and glue this together, matching up my pattern as best I can to make it 21 inches. So to make my 21-inch piece of cardstock, here's what I'm going to do. I've got a 12 by 12-inch piece, and now I'm going to have a 12 by 10.5-inch piece to glue together. All right, so there's my 10.5-inch piece. Let me bring my 12-inch piece back over. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am laying my cardstock down on my cutting mat on the 21-inch line, this first piece over here to the left. This guy I'm going to lay to the 1-inch line, which you can't see, it's off camera, and overlap. But the reason I'm doing that is so I can give you exact measurements. And the measurement between the two, I'll slide this up so you can see, is 1.5 inches. Okay? So if you cut a 10.5-inch piece and a 12-inch piece, you will overlap them at 1.5 inches, or overlap 1.5 inches of cardstock. Okay? So that's how I'm going to do it. And notice that I'm putting the seam here where the binding will be. That's good. I want it there because I feel like I will decorate that and I won't have to worry too awful much about a seam showing if I can't line my paper up perfect, which I'm going to be pretty close. You could use sticky tape here. On second thought, I probably should have, but I didn't. So we'll be all right. If I need to go back and reinforce it or something, I will. So just going to line this paper up top and bottom and make myself a 21-inch piece of cardstock, 21 by 12. Look, it just fits in the screen. And this beautiful buffalo check. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Y'all know me in buffalo check. All right, let's flip it over. Let's check and make sure I got this glued well. I think I'll slip this under here and add just a touch more glue. All right, now we can start covering. This is the part that makes people nervous. Makes me nervous too. So to keep me as straight as possible, what I'm going to do, I think on this side here, is I'm going to use my cutting mat and make an inch mark up the side, just like so. So I've just kind of got myself a placement mark there. I'm going to come to this end and make myself an inch mark. If I were not using a plaid, I wouldn't be as picky about this. Because I'm using plaid, I'm afraid the lines could get off. I'm also going to come down here and mark myself 1/2 inch up. And the way I'm going to do that, see if I can make it where you can see it. Let me roll it like this. Because I can see through my ruler, I can lay it 1/2 inch down on the bottom of my cardstock. And because I can see through, I know I'm straight all the way down and I can make this line. I don't know that I'm going to get a full 1/2 inch, but I kind of want to get myself started. Just give myself a line to start at. Because I can eyeball the top and bottom a lot more than I can eyeball the sides because of my plaid pattern. All right, so I'm going to start over here in this corner. I'm giving myself a good little spot to start. And so this guy can go right down here. Now, like I said, I may get more at the top to overlap. I will get slightly more at the top. Not going to worry about that. But this guy can get glued straight down. You could use sticky tape here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Barely Art tip off just by twisting that off. And I'm just going to do this and just lightly add a little heavier dose of barely art to it. This is going to get sunk in to, you know, I'm going to wrap around it. So all I'm really trying to do is just keep this in place for now. So it's not that big of a deal, but I didn't want the glue to dry before I could get it to the surface. And that can happen with those really good glues like that. I think I will slide this up just a little bit to give myself a little more than ½ inch at the bottom. All right, so there's that side. Now I'm going to show you something I'm going to do before I move on to my other piece. Where this is going to fold over the years is going to need to be kind of conditioned, okay? So what I'm going to do, remember we have double thickness of cardstock here, okay? I'm going to put my hand underneath this and take my silicone bone folder and just make myself kind of a score mark here and see if I can't start the fold now to kind of save me a little headache in a little bit, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get that fold started and fold this over all the way flat. I really think because of this double piece here, I needed to do that. And it's probably going to crack a little bit because it's a book and they do that. Don't stress too awful much. I did lift this up, so I'm going to add some more glue back here. Because in my pushing, I did some lifting right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this guy down on the other side using that inch in mark that I made. Same technique, same glue situation. Just like this. A little heavier handed this time it looks like. All right, and I'm going to put this down and then I'm going to line up the bottoms of my chipboard pieces the same. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to stick that down for a second. I'm going to take my ruler down here and just push until these match up to get them pretty straight. So I'm measuring both sides to just see if I'm in the same spot. And it appears that I am. Yep. I'm being real picky about this one. I'm not usually this picky. Then I'm just going to push this down, push this down, push this down. And you guessed it, we're going to do that same technique in the middle where we're going to kind of go ahead and work this fold. I just know this is going to be an issue later. For me, it usually is. So let me score really well in here. Fortunately, on this side, I'm only folding one thickness of paper versus on the other side, I was scoring multiple thicknesses. See, that's much easier this time because I had the two thicknesses on the other side. So let's just fold that over and crease it down. The book will never fold this far, okay? So we're good. I just want to work that bend in first. All right, and now it is time to put our spine down. And if we've done everything pretty well, our spine is going to work perfectly. That looks good to me. So we're just going to center it in there. Use our same glue. Then let's put this guy in. Now you do want that gap in the middle. What I was hoping is I would get at least a ruler thickness. Let me see if I am. Because my ruler's pretty thick. Yeah. Perfect on both sides. All right. Glue everything into place. All right, just doing a little test to see how everything's doing. Looks to be fine. I may do a little nip out of here to keep some bulk out. I'll show you that in just a second. But first, let's talk about these corners. So I want to fold this over, but if I have all of this extra down here, it just gets in the way. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to miter cut this corner, okay? I don't want to go right to the chipboard. If you go right to the chipboard, it's going to be exposed. You want to come out about 1/8 of an inch from that corner and just cut some of that away, okay? And you want to do that everywhere you have a corner. So about 1/8 of an inch out and cut an angle away. That'll just take some bulk out. If you've ever sewn before, you know about taking bulk out of corners, right? That may be too far away. I don't know. I would rather have a little bit extra than cut away too much because I don't want my chipboard showing. All right, let's get this turned back around. Now, where I was talking about that I might do a little snipping is down here. I thought about doing a little angle snip to get some of that out. I think I will. So what I'm going to do is down here, I'm just going to snip Not all the way. Remember, I'm staying about 1/8 of an inch away. But I'm just going to do something like that. Because I find with these books, sometimes I fight with bulk. So just a little snip like that to get some bulk out of these edges. And at the top. Okay, now before we start folding over, here's what we want to do. We want to score the cardstock. This will help the fold process. So score all the way around. Just right up next to your chipboard. Okay. Now I'm going to roll this over, and I mean roll it. I don't want to overwork it. I don't want to over press it. How do I say that? I don't want to put this perfect push crease. I need it to kind of have a rounded roll over. You'll get a much better result that way. Okay, so let's go back to our glue. I'm going to put my cap back on. Cut my fine metal cap because I think it'll do better this way, because even with this glue, less is more. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue on. I want to make sure I get this glue down nice and snug. All right, I'm going to roll that over again. We're just going to work it down till our glue starts to catch. You can take your bone folder and work that again. And I love that nice big wrap. I don't like to have just a tiny little wrap around. I like extra so it'll go under my other piece and make this very sturdy. Let's do this side. Go ahead and do that soft roll over. Go ahead and press that down. Now we can glue. All right, so there's our sides and now the bottom. We'll do them the same way. One thing you can do is kind of lift your piece up and roll it using your chipboard to help. See how I did that? And then I can press it down. That middle is going to give you a little resistance because it's good thick cardstock. But you can get that first initial roll going and then glue that into place. So there's my book, very well covered. Now, the only thing I want to show you where my double thickness of paper is, I don't know if that's even going to focus very well, but there's a little bit of tearing right there. That's the only place I got a little bit of an issue, was where that double thickness wrapped over. All right, we need to do the center, but I want to show you what this is going to look like. See how that's going to sink in there like that? We're going to have that little bit all the way around. Isn't that going to be pretty? Because of that, I'm going to add another adhesive when I get to this point. But for now, let's put a piece down here to cover the middle. So I love this snowflake piece. So I cut a piece that is 4 by 10 3/4. So that will give me a little bit of red on either side. And this is where it's going to live. Now, before I glue it down, because I don't want to mess up all the work I've done, I'm going to come in here where my little, my seams are, or my binding is, and I'm going to score in there, so that when I glue this down, it will still fold well for me. I don't want to fight all the work I've done or mess up all the work I've done. So there's that piece scored. And now I'm going to come over here and do this side. And I'm just letting those gaps in the chipboard tell me where to score. All right, and I think I'm going to glue the middle down first and see if I want to fold and then glue the sides. So I got that all glued down, and when I go to start my first fold, I'm going to do it again with my bone folder and help it. Like, I'm not just going to lift this over, okay? Now I want to glue this guy down inside of here. Don't worry about this blue that doesn't match. It won't be showing. But I want to show you something I'm going to do as an extra help. On the back of here, I'm going to take some of my thicker Elizabeth tape, and I'm going to run it all the way around the edges. I want to be sure that this guy stays in place. And I think being able to get this tape right to the edge is going to be better than just trusting my wet glue. And I just cut this with a little 1-inch block. I just lay it on the edge, and that's how I cut it. So again, here I'm going to run some tape down. My wet glue's good, and it does a good job, But this will give me another layer of protection. Plus, my plan is that it'll also help to seal this down even more. So like if I'm struggling anywhere there, this will clear that up too. So now that I've got that, I just added some extra tape in the middle. Then I will add some extra glue. But first, I'm going to go ahead and reveal my sticky tape so that I can put the glue between and not have to do this after I have my glue down. All right, and then glue in the middle. Now, I will say this. If you think you want to use ribbon to close this, I'm probably going to use ribbon, but I'm going to do it on the front cover. I'm not going to worry about it too much inside of here. You could sandwich your ribbon at this point if you wanted to. So before you glue these down, you could put your ribbon underneath here, which I might should have done, but I think I'm just going to figure it out on the front just in case, as far as my closure goes, because I don't think that'll be a hard thing to do. And then just eyeball this one around the edge, like so. Now I'll take my bone folder and in my little crease, I'm going to press that again and see what I get for the turn here. Oh, that's not bad. Went right in. That's really good. Okay. I'm glad. I wasn't sure I was going to like the turn on that. Sometimes I don't, but this seems to be okay. Sure enough. All right, look at there. So all you need it to do is that. Isn't that nice? I love that. This reminds me, I have a cookbook that looks like this. It reminds me of this completely. All right, we can now glue down our little boxes. Now, you might not want to glue them yet. You might want to decorate them first and then glue them down. And that might be the better option. I may wait, but let me just kind of show you what will happen. See how these will lay in here like this, and they'll completely hide our little blue that doesn't match. So like I said, you won't see that, and they'll just go just like this. You might not want to do black boxes. I did black because I didn't know exactly what project I was going to be using, but I always like a little bit of black in the projects. I think it makes it elegant. So these will all lay like this. So I think I'm going to decide my decoration before I glue these down, just so I can know for sure, but that's how it's going to go. Cool, huh? And then they'll stack and shut like this. So now I'm going to decorate the boxes. And what I have done first is I've chosen 2 pieces of the paper from the Mente pack. I chose this poinsettia piece and then this snowflake piece. And because my boxes are 2 inches on the top, I cut 12 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 out of the poinsettia. And I cut 12 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 out of the snowflake. Okay, so they're going to alternate on my page. So I want to show you how I'm going to lay that out. All right. So I want both sides to work this way. All right. So let me just show you this because I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. These are not glued down, but I did a little test run just to make sure to see how to lay them out. So you see how I have blue, poinsettia, blue, and then it alternates red, blue, red, like that. I want to do the same thing, but I want to continue down here from up here. So where I have red, blue, red, that means I want blue, red, blue down here, if that makes sense. So I went ahead and did those and just laid those out because I want to make sure I'm doing it correct. So let's get these guys. So that means I want blue, red, blue. Then I want red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. You do want to kind of look at that. Do a little prep work and take a look at what it looks like on your little boxes so they lay out correctly. You may not care. You may want them all random. Do them random. That's totally up to you. Now, you saw the little number pieces I made. Let me show you how I did it. So I went into my die sets, my stash, and I pulled out this die and this die. Let me give you measurements because I don't even know. I was looking for punches, but my punches were just a little too big. So this is 1.5 inches, and this little guy is probably the same. Oh, he's like 1 5/8 inches, okay? And he just peeks out the edge. He just peeks out. See that? And these are the two ones. So this is from my Doris Circle dies. And this is one that's in my stash, a scallop stitch that I've had. I think this is a Gina Marie die that I've had in my stash. So I cut these like this. Then, let me slide these to the side so I can show you what I did next. Next, I pulled out a stamp set. This one is called Alpha Bold. It's a great set. It's usable for everything. And I went to the numbers, okay? And I have already stamped all of them but one. There was a lot of like the same work over and over again because I needed to make 24 of them. So I just went ahead and did that off camera so you wouldn't have to watch me do all that. But this is a piece of wood paper from the Mente pack. All this is from the Mente except my solid pieces. So I didn't want my wood going in a certain direction, so I angled it so I wouldn't have to stress about how it landed. And then I just stamped my numbers on. And I liked it on the wood grain. I thought that was different to do something like that. And then I glued these guys together. So just on the back of my number 1, added some glue. Just like so. And then with the tiniest little bit of that scallop showing, I glued them together. You really can't tell what it does here, but when you see it completed, like I showed you earlier, it really looks good. All right, so here they are. So there's my number 1, and I'm just going to show you. You just see how good this looks on there? It just really pops to add that little scallop around the outside, and you see how many I had to do? So that's why I did those off camera. That was a lot of work. All right, so I'm going to glue these straight down. Why am I gluing them straight down? Okay. I don't want any dimension in here because the size that I made my book, I want these boxes to kiss when the book is closed, all right? That's the way, in my mind, everything will stay inside nice and snug and the lids will all stay closed, is if it just kind of kisses each other. And it won't be perfect. I don't think it'll be perfect. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. We'll see. But I think it's going to be really close. So another thing, you might want to just kind of lay these guys together. So when you're putting the numbers on, you make sure you get kind of a neat look. If you don't, you might run through and glue them all down and think they all look right and then put them in the book and they'll be a little askew. So just kind of put them side by side to kind of get a good view of it. I just kind of did this on mine, just pushed them up. Okay, so now these are going to get glued down to my boxes. And one thing I did was I went ahead and put my boxes out before I started gluing so I could make sure all my lids were going in the right direction. Now I want my lids facing down. Okay, so here's what I mean. This is where they open, okay? So I want that lid to close down so it'll flip up. There you go. I want my lids to flip up. That's what I probably should have said. So I'm going to make sure they're all going in the right direction because knowing me, I'll get started and have one upside down. You guys know me in orientation. I'm never good at that. So just get all these guys laid out like so. And then I'm just going to glue these to the tops. Again, no foam. I'm not going to pop these up. I'm going to glue them directly down because I want them to help hold the boxes closed. So I want them to just touch inside my little book. And when you glue this down, you'll have a little bit of a border around the box so that black will pop. I love that touch of black. I wasn't sure about it. I got to be honest. At first I was like, I may have gone overboard with the black because my colors are pretty soft. But once I laid those on and I realized that adding the black letters, the black numbers and the little black trimmer on the edge, it just really sets it off. I'm going to glue these into the book as well as the others that I have ready that I haven't glued in yet. But I'm going to change glues, and not for any reason except I want a little more flow for this, and I'll tell you why. These are going to sit up a little bit because I glued that paper down, and I want them to get a good like adhesion, and I'm afraid if I use a really super fine bit of glue like my fine tip is putting out, that they won't quite go down without me having to hold them for a little while. So I'm going to use my 1-ounce art glitter glue because I can get a little more out without having to I get a little thicker bead, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up at the bottom of my little blue square there and cover up the blue square. That's what I'm wanting to do. And I'm going to hold that for a second, let that glue down. You want to make sure you get them good and glued down because the lids are going to be pulled on year after year. So you want to make sure you get them glued down well. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just lining it up at the bottom of my little blue square. I'm going to look in camera too and try to get them as straight as I can because it will probably bug me if they're all crooked. I don't know. Not much bugs me. Not like that anyway. This has been a lot of work, so it doesn't bug me too much as long as it looks decent and it gets the job done. Like I tell Vince, it just has to be, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to function. Although we want it to be beautiful too. Okay. So this guy here, and they might be a little off. You can always take your ruler to them. You can always kind of, oh, that one feels a little low. So just scoot him up a little bit. There we go. All right, let's keep going. So I've just had a punch here to hold them down to dry a little bit. And I want to mention something. I know I told you I was changing this for the tip, and that is the case. This does come with multi-tips. I just didn't want to take the time to change it. That's just how I am. I had this sitting on the desk, so I'm going to use it. I was just working, and I thought, somebody's probably thinking, why didn't you just switch your multi-tip? Number one, because I'd have to find it, because I've put it away and hid it from myself. That's always how I do. And number two, I had that one sitting here, so I'm just going to keep going. The punch is kind of helpful, and I'm also seeing that I can put glue like directly down. And then I can put two down at one time. And sitting the punch on them to add a little weight, that's a good idea too. Our glitter glue doesn't take long to catch. Neither of these glues take long to catch and dry. But I just thought it was a good idea to sit something there to give them a little bit of weight. So there they are, all placed inside. I cannot guarantee that they're perfectly straight, but this is what I wanted it to do. See how they just kiss together? And there's not a whole lot of bend in. Do you see that? I love that. I think that works really well because it'll keep everything sturdy. So when it's full, it's not now, but everything will be snug together. Also, I want to show you this. The way I designed it, we have a 1/2 inch gap here so you can lift them very easily. Do you see that? They lift and they close super easy. And that's why I did that 1/2 inch gap. I was going to do a 1/4 inch, but you need a spot to get your thumb in. Now, children's thumbs are smaller than ours, but you need that. Also, you'll notice that this 1 inch box is a good height because the lid really like seals itself down. I'm not having to do anything to make it stay. You see that? I'm real happy with how this is turning out. I really like this part. All right, what I want to do now is go ahead and address my closure, because what I want to do to close it is I want to put a black satin ribbon all the way around it. I'm going to adhere it down and then it'll tie on the side, but I want to do that before I put any decoration. So if I do cover it up, it's underneath and it will be so pretty. I think it'll be so pretty anyway. So let's work on the closure. So I'm going to turn this where you can see what I'm doing. Obviously it's sideways. I want to use this black satin. I just think it'll be pretty to pull that black from the side into the outside. And I need to find the center here because I'm going to be using some Elizabeth tape, some sticky tape to hold this down. So let me see where my middle is. So 10.5, so 5 3/8. So 5 and 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to put a pencil mark, 5 3/8 right here. And I'll come over here and do a little bit too. Now I'm going to wrap this all the way around because I think it will be lovely. So I'm going to put some tape down. And I'm going to go from edge all the way around. It looks as though I can pretty much put my tape inside this white line of the buffalo check. Let's see if I can continue that. Yes. And all the way out. Then I'm going to snip that. Let me use my Tim Holtz so they're a little bit non-stick. There we go. Put that like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel that back. Well, let's decide how long we want our ribbon to be first. So I want enough to tie over there, right? You know me, I always tell you I give myself more ribbon than I need, but I do that so I can be sure I can get a nice bow. So I'm just going to wrap this around, and I'm giving myself way too much. I already know this, but I can edit that, but I want to be able to tie my bow and then edit it so I can always get a nice bow, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to peel this back like so, and I'm going to place, I think I'm going to tear that so it's still covering up what's around the side. I'm going to place my ribbon here. So let me kind of pull it snug. I want to get pretty much in the center. Bring that down a little bit. I'm not too worried if it's not perfectly centered. I just want it pretty centered. So there's that, and that's going to be just fine. Isn't that pretty, that black satin? All right, so now I can stand it on its side, pull this back, and lift this up. And then I'm just going to pull this snug around the side. Y'all, these colors, you know it. You knew it had to happen, right? It had to be this red, black, and white for me. I can't shake it. It is my color. And then let's put this one on. So pretty. I got a little crooked. I don't know if I'm going to be able to lift it up. Yeah, I did. There we go. I'm going to press that in. Now, that tape, the Elizabeth tape is not having to do a whole lot, you know? All it's got to do is keep my ribbon in place because I'm going to tie it on the side. So let's go ahead and do a tie. Like so. See if I gave myself too much ribbon. I'm not sure I did. I'm actually not sure I did. One thing I will tell you, if you're giving this as a gift, and I say this often, give more ribbon than you need because we're crafters and we're used to tying bows. But if you're giving this to somebody who's not used to tying a bow, if you give them just enough, it's going to be a struggle. You know how it is. You know how long it took you to get bows down, right? You know how long that took. All right, I want to send this out this way. What I'm going to do is trim this off. Now, I trimmed this one with my pinking shears. I think I'll do the same, and I'm also going to fray check it because I want this to last for years. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to get my fray check and go to it. So I'm just going to do this, and now I'm going home for the evening. So I'm going to let this sit and dry overnight, and then when we come back, we'll open it up, see how it's going, and we will decorate the front of our album with that beautiful mente paper. I can't wait. I want to put this scene on the front of my album. I don't know how much of it I can get. Let's lay this here. So here's the thing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the back of the album. Okay, I'm not going to decorate back there. I'm that person. You know that about me and my albums. When I make mini albums, I typically don't do anything to the back. They're just going to lay there. But I think that this scene with this deer in this corner would be so pretty on the front. And I'd like to bring this in also if it's possible. I don't know if they'll both fit. We'll see. So I'm going to fussy cut this. So what I want to do is give myself a mark to fussy cut. I know at the bottom where my mark is because the paper cuts off, you know, the scene ends. But up here, I want to kind of give myself a mark. And I'm thinking something like this part of the tree, something like that. And I might have to bring it down a little bit. But I don't really want the tree to go all the way up. I think that's where I'm headed with that. So I'm just going to take some fussy cutting scissors. Also, I don't want the logs and the snowballs. I just want this sleigh. And I know it seems weird to kind of cut that away, but the more you cut away, the more the scene makes sense. You'll see as I go. So what I'll do, I'll probably just cut this guy off real quick. Just cut this page off and then come back and do my finessing. I'm going to go ahead and cut these where I marked so I'll know. And now I'm just going to run around and play around with the cutting. Again, I'm not trying to cut every single thing or every single mark out. The scene will be beautiful ever how it lands. What I think is going to make it look the best is the fact that the background is that red plaid and it's really going to pop when I lay it down. And if I don't cut enough away, like if I don't get into the nooks and crannies enough, I can always go back and add more, but we'll see when we lay it down. So let me fussy cut this guy out and see what he ends up looking like. So here it is, and I just think that'll be so pretty right there. My bow keeps wanting to hop up. Let me bring that ribbon down. Like so. Look how beautiful that is there. And I think I do want to pop it up on some foam. I don't think I'm going to get that piece I wanted right there, but isn't that gorgeous? I love this piece. I love it. Okay, let me see if I think I can get that barn in the distance. I'd like to have that barn and that red bird in the distance. I think I can. I think I can. Let me cut it out. Let's just see what happens. So can that, oh, I think it can live up there. I think it can. I think it's actually very pretty right there. It kind of looks like it's in the background a little bit. I think I need to ink the edges to make these really pop. Let's do that real quick. I mean, I haven't inked the edges of the album anywhere, but I don't really think that matters. I think it'll just help these pages to really pop off the plaid if I put a little bit of ink around the edges there. Oh, what a difference. Just putting that ink, especially at the bottom. All right, let's do this one. So with everything inked up, I want that up there. I want this to feel like it's in the background. I want this to feel like it's in the foreground. I really like the plaid showing through. I could put another piece of paper. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going with this. Let's get some Scotty.
So I'm going to flip these guys over, and I'm going to put some Scotty on them, which is foam tape if you don't know. My favorite foam tape, this one, the Scotty one. So I have a lot of foam tape on the back. So I'm going to put that one up here in the top, like so. And then look at all the foam. We'll peel the back off of this, and we'll flip it over and stick it down. And then this little guy is going to go in this corner. I just love that. You just don't have to do much with Maymay, you know? It's just gorgeous the way that looks. I'm thinking I might want to ink the edges. I didn't think I would want to, but I'm kind of feeling like it. So let's just see. Let me do it. If it doesn't look good, you don't have to. I think it'll look good. But I'm feeling like just stressing this a little bit to kind of go with those images will kind of tie everything in really well. For those who followed me for a while, you can tell I must have made up with my ink blender, right? Somebody commented that the other day. After I made one of my projects where I had to ink every little corner of it, and I was like, nope, I'm taking a break from my ink blender. No more inking for a while, but I'm back. We're friendly terms again, me and the ink blender. That's really pretty, and it just doesn't take any work because the paper does all the work. I like to let the paper do the work. Y'all know that about me. So I'm going to ink the rest of this guy, and then I'm going to do a little bit on the inside. So I thought this would be pretty if I picked out like my 3 favorite scenes and just cut a strip and put it down the inside here in the middle. I love the snowman, but I really like the snow globe. I think it'd be pretty in the middle. And these images kind of, no matter where they end, I think they would work. So let me show you what I'm thinking about here. Move this out of the way for a minute. Let's cut that center strip out and just see what we're working with. I really don't know what I'm working with or what size. So let me cut the decorator strip off or the branding strip off real quick. Go. All right, let's take this section. I love that snow globe. I think it'll be pretty. I do not think I need this much. I could measure. Let's cut it and see what we end up with first. I just think that'd be pretty in the middle inside our book. So if we bring our book back over, yeah, wouldn't that be pretty just kind of there? And it looks as though I can keep the owl head. I need to trim this down. It looks like 1/4 of an inch on either side. Let me try that. I'm just eyeballing, y'all. Do you ever just eyeball? I know a lot of you guys don't. I know it makes you real nervous, but in this kind of situation, I don't know the perfect. You know, I could measure it and try to get it perfect, but I don't know if there is a perfect. Let's see what that looks like. All right, let's see if that will close, open and close. I don't think so. Nope, it's right on the edge. So I'm going to need to take another 1/4 of an inch off. I feel like it. Let's see how that lays. Much better. I think that will stay. Yep, that stays inside on that side. Okay, so let me decide what I want to cut off. I kind of want to keep the owl head. I don't want to lose that. And so that means if I cut above the owl, I can cut below the bird, so I can keep both of these. So let me cut right at the owl. And let's lay that in. Yep, and then let me see about the bottom. It looks like I can go to where the star right here goes up. I'm just looking at the image and just kind of letting it tell me what to do. And I think our strip will be right. This way, like I didn't measure, but this way I know I got what parts of the image I want. Isn't that pretty in the middle? I'm telling y'all, Maymay does the work. I don't have to do anything but glue it down, which I really like. So let's glue this piece in. I got some glue on the back, and I'm going to just place this between the book folds. And I want to make sure I'm not overlapping. I'm not there, and I'm not there. And I think this turned out pretty. I'm not going to overwork it. Notice I didn't ink the inside. That way my continuity, if I'm not going to ink in here and I did ink outside, it won't look so bad because I don't want to go back and ink all these boxes. So look, that is my book advent calendar, and I'm pretty happy with it. Are you guys? Are you glad I finally did one for you? It's been a long time coming. I promise y'all have been asking me for a advent calendar like this for a couple years. And again, it's such a big project. Like I said, it's a day project. If you'll sit down and give yourself a day, you can do this one. And it's really pretty and it's a big payoff. But there you go. It is our advent calendar all done, our book box advent calendar. I hope you try this. If you do, you know I want to see it. So I want you to head to our website at maymaymadeit.com and share photos of yours on our customer gallery. Or you can go to our Discord where you can chat with us and share your work and see other people's work. And I'll put the link to that in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time. Bye bye now.